we're going to see how to create our center lines for our objects. So moving forward, each of your drawings are going to have circles, they're going to have holes, there's going to be areas where you're going to have to add different line patterns, and that's why you created those layers. So we're going to look at putting those into this drawing. So I'm just using the overall circle from the circular spacer, so it's a 7-inch across, and then I've just created some lines to show you how to add different types of center lines. So we've created these layers. To access those layers, you can use the drop down for the layers. When you see your center, you can click on that layer, and that makes that the active current layer. You'll also notice that the color changes and the line pattern changes if you have set those correctly in your layer properties. So again, you've got color and your line pattern. Now we're going to switch over to the annotate set of ribbons. And you'll see right in the very center, center mark and center line. So your center mark is going to be used if you have drawn a circle or if you've drawn an arc, because all you have to do is simply select the shape and it puts the center mark and the center line in for you. The center line option is when you have two parallel lines and you want to indicate the center between the two parallel lines. Now you can always draw center lines. When you draw your own center lines using the line pattern, what happens with those patterns is, one, you have to be perfectly on the center, so you've got to use these object snaps that allow you to pick directly towards the quadrant, which puts you on the horizontal, and quadrant vertical. But the pattern looks a little different and it doesn't put the mark directly in the center every single time. Now this one worked out pretty well. The other part of a center line is it doesn't stop right at the edge of the object. These actually should go out past the object edge 1/8 of an inch. So when you draw your own lines, you end up having to do a lot of adjusting to make them exactly how the ANSI standards want them to be. And all I'm doing is using grips. Each line has its own little blue square at the end, which allows you to stretch it. And I'm stretching it or pulling it the angle I want, and I'm just adding direct distance. So back to that annotate panel. Now let's look at how to make a center line between two parallel. Again, pick your two lines and it creates that center line parallel. So you can see the overlap since they're on the same center. That's usually okay if you have an object that has that, but most of the time you don't want the patterns to cross over because you'll see where the pattern markings are not exactly in the same place. So that could eventually end up looking like a solid red line. We definitely wouldn't want that. So we'd want to stretch that line back to where it didn't overlap another line. And you'll learn how to use these tools as you get better with your software. But this is just a basic, how do you add your center lines to your drawings?